Hi, everyone. This is Ralph Bryant from Community Programs at the Allied Beauty Association. I'm really excited that whoever's here is here with us. Hope everyone had a great day. The weather is cooling down a little bit. Um, this conversation is one in a series of conversations that the ABA is having, really trying to be at the forefront of this diversity, this conversation around diversity and inclusion that the beauty industry is having all over the place. So and this is an ongoing, continuing conversation that we'll be having today. I'm really excited to have with us Fina Khan. Fina Khan is a hairdresser, makeup artist, jack of all trades in the professional industry. But she brought to the ABA this really interesting perspective that on shoots and in on movie sets and in shoots and in theater, there really is a need for some continuing education with regards to working with textured hair. So we're going to bring her in and see if we can understand why that is and try to get some answers on how for people that are interested in a career behind the scenes on sets, what do you need to kind of prepare yourself? Hey, Fina, good evening. How are you?
How are you? I'm fine, thanks. Lovely to be
Excellent.
here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me. So before we get into all of that stuff that's super important, I'm curious because I'm not sure I know this. How did you get started in the industry?
Well, I started in the 1960s. In 1960 in Trinidad. I was born in Trinidad, and I went to hairdressing school, and then I worked in a salon, working with all textured hair because Trinidad is multicultural. I did a lot of straightening in those days, straightening hair chemically, right?
Yes.
And then after that, I decided, well, I was also we did a lot of, got involved in fashion shows, queen shows, community theater. The government had a program, a cultural program where all the girls would come in their traditional costumes from their little villages and stuff, and in evening gowns. And I was in charge of the backstage, looking after that. And then I got involved with Yardley International as their beauty representative with with a makeup line. So I got involved in that. And then I went to secretarial schools, teaching people how to do their makeup. There was also the airline, BWIA. I also taught them how to look after their hair and their makeup and that sort of stuff. And then I emigrated to Canada. And again, I continued getting involved in amateur theater. And then I got my first job at the Shaw Festival Theater, which is a very big theater in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Yes.
And that is where I was introduced to wigs and making wigs. And I was in charge of the Courthouse Theater. So I worked with a lot of A-plus actors and what have you. And then somebody saw my skills when I was working in amateur theater in St. Catharines, because that's where I lived. And they wanted to come and join them at the Canadian Opera Company. So I went over the winter time, because Shaw Festival opens only in the summertime. So in the winter time, I went and worked at the Canadian Opera Company and also got involved working at one of the theaters, Young People Theater, because the head of department at the Shaw Festival wanted to go to the States over the Christmas to be with her family. And she asked if I would take over the job that she had there, which I did. And then the rest is, and I worked there. I worked there for many years, and then I peddled my skills to every theater in Toronto. There was nobody like me in Toronto doing hair and wigs and that sort of stuff. And then the production manager at the Shaw Festival got a position as a production manager at Mirvish Productions. And he hired me to come to Mirvish Productions. So in those days, we didn't do musicals. It was just plays. So I worked with people like Joanne Woodward. I met Paul Newman, Charles Durning. And then the big musicals started to come in. And then I worked on Les Miserables, Beauty and the Beast, Miss Saigon, all these shows. And then I decided I wanted to learn more about wigs. And I went to England and studied how to make wigs from scratch, how to color the hair, how to curl the hair by boiling it in water after I wrap it onto a dowel. And then I came back, and then I applied for a grant to go back to go to Germany to study prosthetics. So I studied prosthetics, right? And I also took classes in Toronto on makeup. So I had a knowledge of hair, makeup, prosthetics, right? And of course, having worked in the theater all these years, I learned to work with all kinds of hair, all kinds of designs, working in period looks and everything. So one of my girlfriends who had worked with me in theater actually started to work in film, and she invited me and she said, Fina, you need to come over and work in film. Now I had all the skills, but I didn't know anything about film. So it was a little bit frightening, and going on set for the first time. I mean, lights, words that you didn't know anything about, and you're observing everything, but it's a whole different kind of atmosphere, right?
Right.
And
So
of course,
what's a day like a typical day on set on a film shoot or a TV show? What's that day
okay,
like?
a day could be anywhere from 4 hours to 18 hours a day.
Okay.
And it could be and it could be anywhere. It could be winter time, snow falling, it could be out on a boat, it could be in the jungle, wherever the scene needs to take place, that's where you are, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
then everything is portable, so that if you are out in the outskirts and you're going to film something that is in the forest, then they will set up tents, and then you will have your stations there, and the electricians will put in the cables for the electrician for the electricity, and the locations guy will set up the tables and the mirrors, right? But there's something that you have to do before, because what happens is you have to call into the union, because it's the union. IATSE 873 is the organization that has the authority to send you out on these jobs. So you call the union and you make yourself available. And if there's a show that they need you for, they will send you to the show, right? So you go to the
Right.
show, you get there now, you have to make sure you take all your paperwork. You have to have your social insurance number and all this sort of stuff, because you have to fill out a plethora of paperwork in order to get paid. And
Okay.
then there is something called a call sheet, which is basically your recipe of what you are going to do and what everybody is going to do for the day, not just hairdressers, but wardrobe, camera people, you name it, every day. So you follow that script basically, right? You can
Right.
also get something called sides, which is the script for the day. So you get an idea when you read this script for the day, exactly what the atmosphere is and what it is you have to do. But your head of department or your background coordinator will give you a little talk and say, okay, this is what we're doing today. It's a courthouse, and we have a secretary, we have a judge, we have some criminals, or we have some test, all these different characters. So you're working with characters, and then you have to look at them and see whether they need a trim, a haircut, and what you're going to do in order to create a realistic look at what a courtroom looks like, right? So you're
Yes.
not going to have people that have hairdos that they just went to to a party, right? So it's
Right.
going to be everyday people, right? So you have to go with what the script is saying and what the call sheet tells you, because it might say 2-3 secretaries, 5 lawyers, a judge, a typist, and then you have the audience in the courtroom, right? So there are people of different kind of people dressed differently, right? And then wardrobe,
Right.
of course, takes care of the wardrobe. Makeup looks after the makeup. But then you have two separate locations. You have the trailer, where the actors are, the principal actors are taken care of by the head of department, the assistant,
Right.
and the third. And then you have background performers. And this is where you begin to work when you start to work in the film industry, working with background, right?
Okay.
And you
Right.
have to lug all your equipment with you, right? Now, things
Right.
are different now because of COVID. You have to do a lot of cleaning. We haven't gone back to work yet, but there's a lot of disinfectation and bins that we have to have. And, everything has to be sterilized and that sort of stuff. But
Sure.
normally you lug a lot of stuff with you because you have to have your consumables, your bobby pins, your elastics, your tools, because you don't know
Yeah.
who you're going to get to sit because you're working with a diversity of people.
Yeah. That was actually what I wanted to get into, because you're in that, because you don't know who's going to sit in your chair
Yeah.
every day. It I'm curious, and I know that we've talked before this about the lack of people that are trained stylists that are able to deal with the diversity of hair types that might sit in their chair on a given day. So when did you recognize that lack of diversity and training that was missing, and when did you first recognize that?
From day one.
Mm.
From day one working in theater, I saw the lack, right?
Okay,
And
tell me about that.
well, when you go and see a show, or you look at the audience, or you look at your performers, you don't see anybody who is of color, right? It was all fair-skinned people because that's how it was, right?
Right.
But Hollywood has realized that they are people of all nationalities, and you have to include them, right? And I mean, and this is our reality today. So as a
Sure.
result, most of our hairdressers in the film business, in the theater, don't know how to handle super curly hair. They don't know how to look after it. Okay,
Right.
because they have been trained. All hairdressing schools mostly train you on Caucasian hair, and if they do train you on super curly Afro hair, is 1 week of it. That's not enough.
Sure.
So so now we are really focusing on being able to have hairdressers who can work with both types of hair, or several types of hair, because you have to also have Asian hair, and you have a different kind of curly hair, all kinds of wave patterns that you have to deal with and know how to look after it, and what products are you going to use, right?
Right.
And
So this might. So a related question to that. So if I'm a stylist working on a shoot for a particular day, uh, I assume I'm not going to be just handed the black customers or the Spanish customers. Or actors. I'm just going to get whoever is on
yeah,
the call sheet for that day.
so I'm just going to tell you how it works. There's a big room, and all the background performers are sitting there. Okay.
Yeah.
They have to sign in. They sign in because they have somebody to sign them in, give them
Okay.
paperwork, right?
Right.
And then on the call sheet, it says they should be at the station. They start work at 5 o'clock in the morning, right?
Okay.
So
Right.
they have to be in my chair by 5 o'clock. But I don't wait for them to come. I go out there to see who does not look the part, right?
Okay.
Because they have some people that are okay, and then I will pull them into my chair. And when I pull them into my chair, that is when I have a consultation with them, because I'm looking at them and I'm also looking at my call sheet, and I ask them, what role are you playing? Right? And they have to be able to tell me so that I could know how I am going to style the hair
Right.
and
Right.
how much I'm going to do, right?
Yes.
So sometimes you have challenges, right? Because not everybody, we don't have time, or in our situation, there's no basin to wash anybody hair. So
Mm.
if you have been on a set for 3 days, and you're going home at 2 o'clock in the morning, guess what? You have no time to wash your hair. You are exhausted, right? And then you have to
Right.
go to work the next day. So you are getting people whose hair is not perfectly clean. So
Yes.
now you have to do something about it in order to be able to get the results that you want, right?
Right.
And
Right.
normally, as I talk to my students and I say to them, I says, you have to look at a head of hair as if it was a house. You have curb appeal, you have the foyer, you have the living room, the dining room, the kitchen. That's how you look at it. So what are you going to see first? The curb appeal. This is what you're going to see. So this is what you pay attention to, right? Because you only have a limited amount of time. It's not like being in a salon that you could spend 1 hour or 2 hours with a client. It's like 15 minutes. You have to create
Right.
something 15 or 20 minutes and
Right.
send them out. When you have a background of 300 or 500, right? And you only
Wow.
have 5, 6 hairdressers, because they say it's not necessary for everybody to be perfect, or because everybody's supposed to come done, but they don't come done. So now you go in and you pick the ones that are not appropriate and say, okay, here, come sit on my chair, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Right.
And then you work with the hair.
So is there we've been talking, you and I, in preparation for this, about the fact that there are stylists that are, when working on sets, that aren't able to deal with the multitude of textures that'll sit in their chair. I don't think I've ever asked you this question, which is there also a lack of diversity when it comes to the stylists that are working on set?
Yes.
Okay.
Is. But more and more now, there are hairdressers who have realized that there are opportunities in the film industry to work in the film industry, right? But there are skills that you have to have.
Okay.
You have to know how to prep a head of hair to put on a wig, because the way wigs are put on today on a normal person, it's not the same way we do wigs, right? It's totally different because it's only temporary. Right. So you have to prep a head of hair, and you have to know how to put it on, how to secure it so that you don't have to worry about it after, how to glue it, right? And at the end of the night, you take it off, and then you have to disinfect it, and you have to clean the lace and tidy it, and then put it back on the block, and then next day,
do it again.
It could be put away because they're not doing the same scene. It might be they might put it away for another day when that person would be back on set.
Right.
And so yeah.
So if you are a stylist that is interested, like either they've always wanted to do it, or they're listening to this conversation and are getting excited about the possibility of working on set, what are the things that a stylist should do to get ready for a career on set?
Okay, so today we are looking at contemporary stuff. Everybody works on contemporary stuff. When you're going to work on a movie or television series, you do not know whether it's a period, which is a vintage look. You don't know if it's avant-garde. You don't know if it's sci-fi. You don't know if it's from another world, right? So you have to have these skills so that you can do the job, right? So my advice to anyone is to start making a Bible. We call it a Bible, which is basically a binder, and you start getting pictures of different periods. The 1800s, right? The 1905, 1920, the 20s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, right? 80s, 90s, because they're all different.
Right.
Every period is different. So once you have your Bible, right? Now, if you get a call to do a particular show, at least you have your research there.
Okay. Right.
Because it's not all the time. It's unfortunate, but not all heads of department can find the time to do the research, to give you the stuff when you get there and say, hey, follow these.
Right.
Most of them do, but what happens if you go and you don't know what it is? So you have to go with some bit of knowledge of what the period is. So if you have your own book, right? And the other thing you have to do is you got to practice, because if you have only been doing contemporary stuff, blow dry, flat iron work, it's not the same. You have to know how to do a heat roller set and how to comb it out, how to do back combing, how to do back brushing, how to do finger waves, not necessarily wet, right? Because we don't have time to dry it and that sort of stuff. But you still have to know how to do a wet finger wave and a dry finger wave, which you use with rollers. And you have to know what size rollers to use and the direction you're going to use it to get the outcome of the look, you know. So this is why pictures are a good thing, because then you can practice, you know, what is the direction of the hair? Is it going backward? Is it going, you know, sideways? Where is the wave hitting you? Is it hitting, you know, is it landing at the top of your eyebrow, or is it further down at the end of your eyebrow? You know, all that has to be considered. And then the depending on what it is the neatness of the look. How neat is it? You don't want flyaways, because if you have a lot of flyaways and the camera and the lighting, it will pick it up. It'll pick up all those little frizzy ends if it's meant to be neat and tidy, you know. So I recommend that people get a canvas block. Most people, when they buy wigs, they will get a styrofoam block. That is not realistic. Nobody's head is that size. It's too small. And it has no volume. It has no substance, right? You need a canvas block, a size 22 and a half, okay? You have to protect it, so you have to cover it so that it doesn't get all mucky and messy. So I normally cover my canvas blocks with paper, and then I cover it with packing tape, so it's protected, right?
Okay.
And I can disinfect it because a canvas block is made out of canvas, out of fabric, right?
Right.
And then you have to have the tools to go with it. You know, they have to have the T-pins, the blocking pins, the bias binding, to know how to block a wig, right? You have to learn how to wash a wig. You cannot put it in a washing machine. You cannot rub it like you will rub your own hair, you know. So there are lots of extra skills that you need to know in order to work in the film industry. It will set you apart.
So, but the step before that. So so let's say I had all the skills in the world. Could I just show, and I was ready. I had all my tools. I had my blocks and my pins and my kit's all ready to go. You know, how do I think I heard you say that you needed to be a part of the union.
Yes.
Do you need to be a part of the union first?
Yes.
Or do you get some jobs and then become a part of the union? So how does that work?
You have to apply to the union as a permit, and you have to send it. And so it's all online, and you send in your resume or whatever it is. They have questionnaires or what have you. And then you send it in, and then the hair committee will have a look at it. Okay. And then it will depend on if there's a test or if there's a module that you have to do, because they have seen that you don't have all the skills, right? So they will want you to learn the skills, right? So that you could be prepared to work on film, right?
Okay.
But you have to become a permit with the union, and the union is IATSE 873.
Okay. And how
film union?
How hard is that? Is that a difficult process? And is it difficult? Is that union cover just the film industry, or does it is there a separate union for theater work?
Yes. Okay. The theater is IATSE 822, and the film is 873. Now, this organization has been around for 125 years. IATSE.
Oh, wow.
In the States, okay.
So
we have different chapters in different places. We have them in Hamilton. We have them in Thunder Bay. They're everywhere. Chapters. Some are small, some are medium, some are very large. Right.
So the one that you were talking about is just for Toronto.
Toronto, Hamilton.
Okay.
I mean, it's the Toronto chapter. But if we have to shoot in Hamilton, you're still working out of the Toronto chapter.
Okay. So would you happen? Oh, sorry.
So go ahead.
You go. No, you go.
So the production companies will come to Toronto and negotiate with the union. We want you, your union, to be responsible for providing the crew for our show. Right. So if for instance they have to go to Sault Ste. Marie to do a movie, then we have to go there, or we get people there who be part of the team, right? But basically, it's this group of people that's going to go to Thunder Bay or Sudbury or whatever, right?
Right.
If it's in Hamilton, if we're shooting in Hamilton, like we did a show, C.J. Walker, her life story, and
Yes, Madam C.J. Walker. Yeah.
yeah, and we did a couple of scenes in St. Catharines. We took over downtown, put dirt all on the road. It was amazing, right? Yeah, and
Wow.
actually, the person who did the hair, Ethelene, was the head of department. She really got praise for the work that she has done, because it was period, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I was fortunate enough to be part of her training, because when I worked in theater, she found out about me, and then I started to train her on period work, right? So
Right.
yeah.
And so there would be a corresponding union for folks in Vancouver, which I know there's a
Yes.
big film
Yes.
industry there. You would search out the local union in Vancouver, whether it's for film or for theater.
Winnipeg, Edmonton, all of those places would have IATSE.
Yeah, I should ask you that. Are there a few places where are those the places that you just named where the majority of Canadian productions are happening? You said Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver, Toronto. Is there any other place where there's a lot of production work?
Well, Vancouver, I think, is the other big hub. Toronto
Right.
and Vancouver, right? The other ones would be. It all depends on the location, There's a lot happening in, I believe it's Thunder Bay, Thunder Bay. So there's a union there, and again, we have hairdressers there who don't know how to work in the film industry, and they've asked me to come and do some training there.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So how can the ABA? I know we were going to do some work together at Revel with regards to this. How can the ABA be of assistance in getting members that are interested and curious about work on sets? Like, what could we do to help?
Well, I think you have to have something at the show where you could attract people to come and hear how to get involved into the film industry, because they don't know. A lot of them don't know that. They could work in the film industry.
Right. Yeah. It's just something that unless you happen to know someone, it's a hard thing to think as a career path. I'm going to work in a salon today, and then a year from now, I'm going to be working on Beauty and the Beast. Right? Mm-hmm. We need someone, and it's why it's great that we're having this conversation. We need people like you that can show us the way and help us kind of broaden our minds. We have an incredible beauty industry, and there are some people that are in our industry that never have stepped foot working in a salon because they got a different career path, right? Doesn't sound like you spent a lot of time in salons.
No. I worked in salon. I had my own, and then I branched out and went into the beauty side of stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then came back when I came to Canada, and I got involved again in amateur theater, because I used to do that in Trinidad, right? Working on shows mm-hmm. and stuff. So I was always in the entertainment field. I was always in that, right?
Right.
With Miss Universe and Miss World, getting all these girls ready because they had to pick one from Trinidad, kind of thing, and so yeah. So
what's the craziest hair that you've done in your career, do you think? If there's one, maybe it's a wig or a style that you had to do. Is there something that like you're like, oh my goodness, that was okay, what?
I was at PEI. I went to PEI, and I did Ye Gods, and I did a wig, and it had the hair was in spikes all over, but then in between I use or what do you call that fuzzy thing? The pipe cleaners.
Oh, yes.
Cleaners. I twirl the pipe cleaners, and then in between I put all the pipe cleaners, right? And then I
Right.
also work at the opera school in Toronto, University of Toronto Opera School, and I
Mm.
did Cinderella, and the girls' hair were ridiculously ugly, you know. Yeah, but that's the other thing. It's the challenge when you are given something and you have to create something. Is like,
Yeah.
okay, what I do is like when I did Madam C.J. Walker, there was one girl who had alopecia and they had no
Mm.
more wigs to use. So I said, well, what am I going to do? I have to do something. Now, I have been in this industry for a long time. I said, okay, so you got to think on your feet. What am I going to
Yes.
do? I went, okay, I'm going to cover her head with hair, right? So I had hair, covered her hair with hair, took a stocking cap, black stocking cap, put it over that, and then put
Right.
toupee tape around so it will stick onto her head. And then I took a wavy hair and started to place it, right? And
Mm.
pin it with hairpins. She had a wig. Nobody knew it wasn't a wig, you
Right.
know?
Yes.
And she, hair decoration. So you have to think on your feet, right?
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
So as we wrap up, is that if there's one more tip, what other one more piece of advice? I mean, that's a pretty good piece of advice. But one last piece of advice that you would share for someone that maybe for someone that is in a salon and thinks that's where I wanted to be, and how rewarding it is to be on set.
Well, people think that it's a glamorous world. Let me tell you, let me get that out of your mind. It is not, there's nothing glamorous about having to work in winter outside, having to work in the rain, there's nothing glamorous. You have to love what you do. You have to be passionate about what you do. If you don't love your job, then it becomes tedious. It becomes horrible, right? I
Right.
love going to, I love creating. Okay. But my advice is if you want to get into the industry, you get yourself a canvas block, you get yourself some wigs, right? And you start to practice all your period stuff. And
Mm.
you start to learn how to use your hand. Most people's hands are very stagnant, right? You have to learn how to sort of move your fingers, and your wrists when you're working with hair, right? It shouldn't be as if you're rolling dough, when you're working with hair. It's amazing. Once you start to play with the hair and move it, to get it to do stuff, it'll do it for you,
Mm.
and
Excellent.
learning how to do things quickly, like updos, like there's no reason to do to complete roller set on someone if you're going to put the hair up, right? You can do ponytails everywhere, curl the ponytails, right? And create, and then take the ponytails out and create amazing hairdos, you
Mm.
know? But that
Mm.
comes with experience. And when you try to figure out, okay, how can I make this faster? How can I make this better? And then, you know what? Today we have YouTube. Go on YouTube, go and see how people are doing things. Go and learn stuff, but you must practice. You cannot just look at a picture and figure you know how to do it. You have to
Right.
practice.
Great.
Practice is the key, right?
Practice is
So,
the key.
yeah, a canvas block and a wig, and you start to work, right?
Excellent.
Spend time, yeah, working. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, Fina. Thank you so much for joining us. I certainly learned a lot. I feel like I should go get a canvas block right now. But I
No,
had my fingers have no movement, so it's no good.
no, I have to teach everybody who wears a wig that they have to get a canvas block, and they go, "Oh, I didn't know that." I says, "Yes, is a styrofoam block the size of your head? No, measure your head, get a block that is the same size of your head, right? You got to
Mm.
measure the circumference, right? And you measure this way, and you measure that way, right? And then you
Yes.
measure from, so that you get, and from front to nape, right? So you get the right size, and then you could go and buy the right size,
Mm.
right? But again,
Excellent.
protect your block, cover it so that it's protected because it's out of fabric. Okay.
Okay.
And as I say, I do private teachings. I am willing to share my knowledge with anybody. They could call me, and I'm willing to share my all my
So,
tips and
so I know you do a lot of teaching. If someone did want to reach out to you, what would be the best way to find you? Is it on social media? Is it how do we get in touch with you?
oh, they could call me, my phone number, and I don't have a problem. Yeah. Or they could email me, you know.
Okay, excellent.
But I
Well,
want people who are passionate. I don't just want some people who just want a job. You have to love what you do and want to move forward in your career, right? Because sometimes you get stuck and you do the same thing over and over in a salon, over and over. I have a girlfriend and all she does is highlights. How boring is that? Highlights, highlights, cutting hair, highlight, that's it, you know?
mm,
And
yeah,
in film, it's diverse. You have opportunities to do creations. I mean, amazing things,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Have a great rest of the night. Thank
Okay.
you. This is again. We're gonna figure out some other ways. I think to make sure that we can get people your way. And this is Ralph Fina from the ABA talking about textured styles in the industry. Have a great rest of the night.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Take
Thanks,
care.
Fina. All right.
Okay.
Bye.